where Adam and Eve actually went wrong. What is up, winning team? Hello, guys. Yeah, I just have so much to say today. I was just thinking, in my previous video, I was talking about time and why I don't believe that time exists. Go and watch the video and it'll make sense of itself if it makes sense to you, if you're prepared to hear the truth, because I did give a scientific backing to my theory, as well as a biblical one. So, Adam and Eve, right? I've been obsessed with Adam and Eve. Like, I'm gonna really like to open up. I'm saying open up. I mean, say things to you guys that I wouldn't say to you guys. I would say to God. That I wouldn't say to anyone. That I would only say to God. Let's put it like that, right? Because God is He's the closest person to me. I trust Him more than anything. Adam and Eve, right? I was obsessively reading through the Bible and trying to make sense of all of history, because I was like, I got to understand how we got here, because I'm waking up and I'll be very real and honest with you all. I don't know why I was brought here. And I often wonder if I should have children, for the simple fact that why would I bring them into this world the way that the world is? You know what I'm saying? But then my bigger question was, but how did we actually get here? Because I've been knowing God my whole life, and I've been knowing that He is who He says He is. And I've been knowing that He is so real. Like, I don't need to overly theologize, or ideologize the Lord. I live and experience with Him as a person every day. So I'm thinking there's something wrong with the system here. So, I feel like I'm the one who swallowed the real red pill, to be honest with you. But that's a conversation for another day. So I be here wondering. So I'm studying through the Bible, because I'm like, in order to, as a mathematician, as a problem solver, and problem solving is my number one skill. It's the one thing that if ever I'm asked a question, the few questions I can easily answer about myself, if asked, like, spontaneously. One of them that I always have an answer to, at least one answer, is name your top 3 skills, right? Don't know about the second 2. But the first, for sure, problem solving. I'm a problem solver through and through. And that is what's cost me in this life, because a lot of people ain't trying to solve the problem. Now, we're not going to talk about the people who ain't even trying to solve the problem, or the people that are contributing to the problem knowingly as of today. We're going to look at where the problem started itself, right? Because it's like when you do an equation, when you're like doing algebraic equations and the question asks you to find x, find the root of this equation, find the number, find the spot. And I love it. That's why I love algebra, and that's why I love anything where it's like find x, find this, find that. I love finding. So I'm now looking through the Bible. I've read the Bible cover to cover, okay? And by the way, just to say, guys, some of me reading the Bible was also me listening to the audio Bible. I just want to make that also clear. I would try to read and listen at the same time so that more would stick in my mind, but not every single time. So I did listen to some parts of the Bible, which I actually felt was better, but I felt like it was better to read it. Either way, I was getting through the Bible. I got through the Bible. And what I realized, courtesy of a significantly intelligent individual that pushed me to research something, is that the root of it all is Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve. Now, we are all Adam and Eve. I'm Adam and Eve. You're Adam and Eve. I hope we've come to the point as a society where we've realized there ain't no part of us like, and when I see Adam and Eve in heaven, malarkey. No, because they're going to have a whole bunch of things to tell you about how you as Adam and you as Eve yourself, right? And where did they go wrong? They went wrong at the point in which they decided, we think, and this goes back to my theory about time that I mentioned in the previous video, we think that because we think somehow in our pride, in our delusion is a big part of pride, I have to say, because pride in and of itself, as it comes in the Bible, the impression I understand is pride is something where you have a deluded sense of belonging to a position or something, or status, or recognition, or whatever, that is not completely based on truth, right? So, for example, the devil, the father of pride himself, right? He had the delusion that he himself should be God and could be God. Not even should be. The could be part was the problem. And so he rose up in pride, and well, pride comes before destruction, a haughty spirit before the fall. It's in Proverbs, right? I'm going to re-release the Proverbs series because the Proverbs series was sick. I don't care. That of all the Bible series that I did on YouTube, the Proverbs one is the best one. I'm going to release that one as well because that's so good. Read Proverbs, the book of wisdom, right? So the sheer fact that Adam and Eve believed, or Eve in the first instance, she believed somehow that she was even capable of containing all of the knowledge of good and evil. Because what I've learned in knowledge, gaining knowledge and wisdom, is that when you look at everything for what it is and you actually have a lot of knowledge, it always points you back to God anyway. It's just that it would just take so long. It's similar to my experience in teaching, like people's brains, and I've been teaching adults as well. I actually currently am teaching an adult who wants to go to university. She's actually 39 or 40. And somebody that I know recommended me because she has to, do some exams and all this. And so I've been teaching her and maths. And even though I don't really want to teach, but to be honest, I just don't want to be responsible for children. So actually this works great for me. So she, I'm teaching her. And what I'm realizing is what I've realized all the time is that it's not that people can't understand a lot of things. It's that people have different speeds at which they take on information and also ways in which they take on information. And that the amount of time, like physical time that exists for the task is not sufficient. So basically, I think that if people had more time, not to be taught, but to think and to be nurtured in the areas of like maths and science, they would understand so much more than what they think. And it's always so interesting to me that whenever I start with teaching anyone, adult or child, right? Because it's not the first situation I've had of adults needing maths for a job, even though they're like massively qualified, but have to do this maths qualification. It's actually really interesting. I actually should be so rich, honestly. It's actually a joke that the world doesn't respect teachers, even though everyone's like, oh my gosh, teacher appreciation. One thing I find fascinating is the journey between the first couple of weeks that I work with anyone, I teach anybody, and they always go from a state of like, oh, I'm just an idiot, I'm not smart, I don't know how to do maths is hard, or science, chemistry is hard, physics is hard, whatever, to I now see that I actually am a strong, critical, credible, intellectual thinker. I just need maybe some time, and I wasn't giving myself the time because I didn't even believe in myself in the first place. I believe that's truly the devil's greatest trick he's done in areas of maths and science, is convincing people that they can't do it. And so because they think they can't do it, they don't even try. And there's an element of science as well where, and I explain this to everybody, I say, listen, scientists have to be a little bit arrogant because you have to be able to explain why you did something. And the why you did something is always more important than the answer. And that's the hardest thing for people to overcome, I find, in teaching, is people obsess over the answer whilst not taking the time to go through the journey of the why, right? Of the why. And I feel like that's what I came to with Adam and Eve also, by the way. We'll come back to that in just a second. All I wanted to say is that small journey and the amount of progress you will see is insane. It's the amount of progress that shouldn't exist in that short space of time. Everybody I've worked with I've always had the least amount of time of all the teachers that they've had, and yet it's like I've had the most impact. That's quite interesting, isn't it? So back to Adam and Eve and the why versus the answer. I was like, why are Adam and Eve in the position that they're in? The why? Because I can now understand. Obviously, the enemy tricked them with his same delusion of, oh, you can actually understand everything. Like I'm saying, if people were given enough time, they would know more. So saying that they're not intelligent is incorrect, or saying they're not good at maths or whatever is incorrect, because it's not that they can't do it. It's that they haven't been given what they need to do, be able to do it. And that if given enough time, and my job basically is I just help to speed along the time by asking helpful questions that will help them go from spending about 20 minutes thinking about something to instantly being like, oh, I see. You see what I'm saying? It's a process. So I feel like a catalyst. This is why I always describe myself to the kids as a catalyst. And I say that so they remember what the definition of a catalyst is, which is, for like the GCSE, something that increases the rate of reaction, but isn't involved in the reaction itself, right? And I truly believe that is what I do as a teacher. I just speed up the rate of reaction. Their brain was already eventually going to get there, given the right circumstances, the right environment. And when I say environment, I'm not saying people telling them to do stuff. I'm saying the right environment not even the externals, right? But they just didn't have enough time. And that is actually our issue as humans, is that we don't have the time we think we have. And that's the why behind Adam and Eve. We don't have the time we think we have, and we don't ever have the wisdom that we actually think we have either. And so with Adam and Eve, right, what I'm realizing is that the enemy, what went down in the garden, which for me is the point of the problem. That was the problem. They were the problem. They are the problem that has to be solved. And that's why I've been obsessively thinking about men and women, because I'm just like, we need to team up against this nonsense, right? When I've been thinking about Adam and Eve and how that's the problem is that Eve believed for a moment that she somehow could gain so much knowledge, that she had the ability to gain a level of knowledge and wisdom, or wisdom specifically, that would at least match what God already had. Because why would you choose an option that is lesser than? That's why I believe it's very important to acknowledge. I think it's really important to acknowledge God as the most high of all the gods that exist, because it's like when I watch anime. It's like when I was watching Seven Deadly Sins, and I enjoyed watching Seven Deadly Sins, although I don't recommend, because it's definitely not the type of thing you would think a Christian person should be watching. But anyway, it was really good. And one thing I liked about it is I liked how when they were coming up in battles, there was a certain point where one of the characters develops a skill where they can see somebody's power level, which, again, as a scientist, I'm here thinking, so how do we calculate the power level? Because who decides what the power level is? And how do we calculate it? What are the variables? What are the measurables? What's being measured? And that's also by the way, the thing that made me realize with science that it's nothing to trust in, is that every single scientific conclusion that we're making in science is based upon our perspective, which is already flawed as humans. And so when we say that we've covered all the variables, we don't know the variables that we don't know about. We're constantly, every day discovering things in the world. It was only in the year 2000 when, was it 2000? Yeah, 2000, when, was it George Bush? I can't remember which president it was or what year. I'm not good with things like years. Whoever was president announced deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. They're like, this is the structure, this is what we know. But now we're having these mRNA, which is messenger ribonucleic acid. It's like anyway, we won't get into all of it, but it's crazy. Do you know that this mRNA, by the way, while we're here, do you know what it actually does, messenger RNA? It sends messages to your system, like to your genes, as to what to reproduce, what genetics to reproduce inside of you. It's insane. And that's me doing a very butchered explanation because I'm not a biologist. Anyway, so we are so behind. First of all, we're so behind, for starters, as in, like, there is no way, even if I was to dedicate myself to science, there's no way I would have any of the big questions that are asked, like what happens after death, and all these questions, how to live life. There is no way I would acquire enough knowledge from this world in the finite amount of time of my existence. That was the mistake that old Eve made in the garden. There, right? She learned from the last deluded person, the father of delusion himself. And delusion, by the way, also is a big part of narcissism. We won't even get into that. We may not today. And then Adam here abandoned knowledge because something else is having a stronger impact on him. And I'll leave that to you all to interpret the way that you wish. But let's just say, all I'll say is women are overpowered. And if a woman has the ability to actually get a man who spoke directly to God to disobey God because of something she said to do, oh, Jesus, Lord. I don't know how we're entrusted with these responsibilities as women, because that's crazy, right? That's when it went wrong. And as soon as that happened, and the Lord said, if you eat from the fruit, he told Adam, if you eat from the fruit of that tree, you shall surely die. You shall surely die. But they didn't immediately die. And a lot of people have said that. And I'm like, that's so interesting that that's people's perspective, because the way I see it is, that was the day that death entered the equation. That was the day that time started. And because God is like, if you want to do things your way, you can do things your way, but your way is always going to lead to destruction. And that's why you can't be doing things your way, and you need to be under the submission and the leading and the everything, the cheerleading, the protection, the everything of God, because God knows so much more than we do. Like, I think about this all the time and that's just out of a respect thing. The other part is just love. Like, if somebody created you this beautiful garden in this place, and he's all gone and brought you a woman who you immediately decided is your wife, right? And you're telling me that you wouldn't just listen to what he said, the one tree and all the trees of the garden, still, like, that is crazy. And that just goes to show human nature. I'm not saying anything against Adam, because the same with Eve. I'm like, Eve, really? You just popped up, you saw this very fine man making the garden's looking beautiful, he's making the garden look lovely, right? You've popped in here, everything's been dealt with, and you have the most insane power of all, which is, and people can come into we'll come into the pregnancy thing, because that's another whole theory I have about, because if Adam and Eve never sinned, anyway. So, you know what I'm saying? Very overpowered as a woman. Why would you now be so selfish? There's this man here that you've been given. Blessing. My favorite of all of God's creations is Ben. Absolutely. Okay? Even though I've had so many bad experiences. But it's getting to know the Lord, because the Lord and God and Jesus, the Holy Spirit, listen, these men are on just another level. And I'm just like, right, okay. I love to see it. Right? And then you've also been given all of this from the Lord. You are that selfish that you have this blessing, and you have the blessing of the planet you've been placed on, where, let's be for real, at that point, you ain't really doing much other than eating. Because you wasn't even here when Adam had started tending the garden. You didn't even exist yet. And then you just pulled up and you just started eating, and then now the world has... You see what I'm saying? And I'm just like, that's where the problem started. It was right there. And it was like the exact, like, it was like the kryptonite of men and women today. Like, literally, the kryptonite of men and women today. It's like, men, women, Lord Jesus. I don't know how it's possible to be so easily enslaved. I really don't. That's why I know I'm for sure not a man. Like, there's no confusion in this department. The Lord is not the author of confusion, ladies and gentlemen. But then us women, my gosh, even myself sometimes I think, wow. Like, when I think about my capabilities, when I think about who I could really comfortably exist as, like, if I didn't have the Lord, I wouldn't choose to be how I am, you guys. You think I would bother getting underpaid, undervalued, underestimated? You think I would just be existing here, smiling, being a nice and jovial, good energy? Oh, hell no. I'll be wreaking havoc. I'll be the ice queen. I'll be wreaking havoc. I'll be destroying as many people's lives as humanly possible, and I wouldn't care about it. And I would sleep probably better than I'm even sleeping now. And I would do whatever it takes. I will live the laziest life of all time. I will do nothing. That's why I get how the world ends up as it is today. And these days, as a woman, it's more you're gonna be better off financially just for looking good than for being able to do anything at all. Just looking good. I don't know if you like, when you're like around people, like whenever I've been in these situations, I've always found it so interesting. When you'll be around people and you're truly around the people that form the gold digger business deal, as I like to call it, men with a lot of money, women with a lot of beauty. I saw a quote that somebody said that some people were upset about that. That was like, women's beauty is equivalent to the amount of money men have. And I thought that's so funny. Like, in society, it's definitely like that, to be honest, right? The gold digger business deal. These types of people, right, when you're around them, you'll be in a stunning, beautiful restaurant, bar, whatever, location. There'll be so much going on. Everybody's dressed up. Everybody's taking, like, if you look on the social media, everybody looks like everybody's dancing. Everybody's having a whale of a time. In reality, no one has a personality whatsoever. Everybody's just here because there's just a business deal going on. I'm just waiting until you've had enough drinks and until you've spent enough time and you've got some whatevers. I'll let you take your little pictures. I'll let you get your little bit of clout. You know the one Cardi B song I actually really like? Clout. Do anything for clout, because it comes into my mind all the time when I think about people that I know who are like that, because I know a lot of people who do anything for clout, and every time they do it, I just hear that song in my head, and it's a good song. Anyway, do anything for clout. When you're around those kinds of people, right, you realize that, like, there is some serious issues with us as men and women, and some serious things that we can use for good and we can use for bad. Because even to me, I'm just like, dude, with your money, how are you wasting your money and your time? The thing I don't understand about men the most, can I be really honest, right, is why you waste time with these women. Like when men are like having all these women, like, and there's just all these women around and they're dealing with all this drama and their phone is going off and they're getting texts and they're getting people showing up and they're getting all this stuff going down. What a waste of your time. And at that point, I just don't respect your use of time. Like, that's where I stand with that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And then with women, it's like, come on, of course we can get away with certain things, right? There's a lot of things we can get away with. We really don't have to do anything. If we really don't want to, really basically don't have to do anything, right? Oh, I was about to say something and it's too extreme. I'll just leave it. But let's not weaponize that, and let's not use the fact that God made us trustworthy and believable and nurturing and Let's not abuse our power either as well here. Like, you know, and I'm just like, that's the problem. That's truly the problem, realistically. That's where it all starts, because then as soon as you break down the man and woman, you break down the family, because then it affects the children, affects how everybody leaves that house and goes out into the community, which creates the world, which creates everything. And that's why the greatest impact is from the house and the home and the man and woman. Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, I have pitched my theory of Adam and Eve in a very long way, but in a way in which I hope you guys can understand what I'm saying. Like, this is really, and this is why I don't really talk about anything else, because I'm kind of just like, everything that happens, like, but if men and women were to work together, but if men and women were to work together, but if men and women were to give each other a break, but if men and women were to forgive each other, but if men and women were to stop accusing each other, that's what I think when I hear all the problems of the world. All the problems of the world, every time I hear that, that is what I'm thinking. If men and women would come together in every way, the world would change for the better, okay? It would change for the better, because we would see a strong bond that had to be the number one. Why did the devil attack Adam and Eve? Because he attacked the thing that would cause the most chaos in the world, which was unity and order between men and women. That is why. And that, for me, look at the world today. What is the number one thing that nobody wants to do? Even myself, to be honest. Be married. Marriage. Oh, the divorce rate. You know what? This didn't just happen. This isn't something that popped out of nowhere. Nothing popped out of nowhere. Literally one of the laws of, I believe it's thermodynamics. Is it? No, I don't think it's thermodynamics. One of the scientific laws anyway. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. That must be one of the laws. Is it one of the laws of thermo? I don't know. Anyway. So nothing came out from nowhere and everything came from somewhere. And that somewhere that these things be coming from is the enemy realized, as long as we're having an argument between men and women, as long as we've got all these problems between each other, that's all that needs to exist. That's how powerful it is. Insane. And that's why I'm like, I don't know about this world, realistically. And I don't know if the people are ready to understand, because you know why that message isn't popular? Because it's the one message that calls all of us into accountability. Men and women. There's no group to point a finger at. The enemy, the Satan, which literally means the accuser, taught us the art of accusation. And when we're in a position where we cannot have somebody else to accuse and it's only left to us, we don't want to be there. And that's why people don't want to be with God. Because when you're with God, God is going to show you yourself. He's going to put you in front of the mirror when you don't want to look in the mirror, because you know what's in the mirror. And then when you look at there and you see the things you didn't even want to see, you're going to see even more worse than what you didn't want to see. And you're going to realize that, wow. And then you're going to start to realize that every single action you do every day has an impact on the world. Because if people collectively do the same thing, right? Like, it's the same way that instead of 70% of the world took the you-know-what a couple of years ago, if instead 70% of the people said no, it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have even happened. And we would still be here. We may even be better off, actually. That's how powerful our individual decisions are. And that's how much power God gave to both us, Adam and Eve, in the garden, right? And I'm just like, do you know what? We need to really solve this. And I kind of just feel bored of talking about anything else until we're going to address the real snake in the garden. Not the fox, not the frigging bear. I don't even know, not the lion, all these other creatures, but the snake. Isn't it funny how we as a society will normalize having creatures like snakes and spiders that by their actual beingness are experts at killing you without you seeing them doing it, and by poisoning you in a way that you won't even know you're poisoned, maybe until the point that you're actually dead, right? And you go to be with the Lord and you have to be like, wait, why am I here? We have those creatures in our houses. You have a snake in your house or a spider or whatever, pet, but you wouldn't have a lion. You would. That is the flawed wisdom of humanity. It's the flawed wisdom of humanity that you actually are more scared. You're scared of this big lion that's running at you and that's whatever, roaring, and hey, at least you can see it. At least you're not going to be surprised when you get to the other side. What were you even doing where there's lions in the first place? The snake or the spider? Oh, you don't even know when they're there, because snakes are experts. That's exactly what we did in the Bible. The snake came in, made a bite. He was the problem. And that's why Jesus has to come back to defeat the ancient snake. And the book of Revelations talks about when Jesus defeats the ancient snake, because the snake was never killed. The snake came in, made a bite in man and woman in that moment, in the perfect way that he could have, right? Starts with a woman, which for me just goes to show, again, who's really the most powerful here, because, hey, you're the man and whatever, you're the head of the house. You do you, boo, right? But the snake went for me, because for some reason, for me, I'm gonna influence everybody, and that's why I know there's such an attack on femininity and women and being a woman and like all of that in society today. Because, again, if we actually all did decide to change, let's ignore even the men for a moment, right? Love them. Society would change for the better if we all as women like stood up and just changed the way we conducted ourselves, right? As women. Bruh. I wasn't always the woman I am today. Let me tell you, I've had my villain story arcs, and I've seen the drastic difference in how I choose to be and who I choose to be, and how it actually directly influences the productivity or the opposite of the people around me without me even trying. Like, so, it's just a lot of things. So I'm just like, let's just get to the point. Okay, we've both failed each other, and we both are annoyed that we have done something we shouldn't have done. And we both now have issues for various reasons, right? With each other. Okay, that's our nature. We're different. We as women wouldn't really fall in the same way that men would. Men wouldn't really fall in the same way that women would, unless it's because of a woman. And let's just accept it. Let's just realize that Satan wanted to attack us because we are the most powerful force on the planet. And that's why he came for us. Let's accept that. Let's accept that we fail, but let's just receive Jesus Christ and allow the transformative power, like the Bible says, you shall be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Let's be transformed by the renewing of our minds, and let's just let go of that. Like, that's over there now. Okay, it happened. I'm sorry. On behalf of all of the women, to all the gentlemen out there, I am sorry that we have failed you in so many ways, and we need to do better, and I want for us to do better as women, and it's one of the main reasons that I submit myself so much to the Lord, because I'm like, God, I do see that we failed the men in so many areas of all generations, right? And I understand. I can actually understand completely why the suicide rate is what it is with men. I can understand it. And there's things that I see where I'm like, wow, that's deep, right? I'm sorry, you guys, on behalf of us. Let's just come together. Like, let's just work together. Let's just forgive each other. Let's just give each other a good chance. You know what I'm saying? Find somebody that is good and godly and give them a chance. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is me. This is what happens when I start having feelings again. I become a freaking lover girl. I hate it. Oh, I hate when I get into I hate being in a lover girl phase. It's just sickening. And do you know what's sickening about it, actually? The only thing that's sickening about it is it's just like, why would you even dream of anything like that in a world like this? And that's why I understand that's why I understand the issues between men and women, because even I'm here with all the faith I have in the Lord, and I'm like, I don't trust men or women. And that's the other thing. That's my advantage, is that I don't even trust men or women. So it's not even like I hate men more, and like, I don't trust either people. In fact, the ones I trust more is the men, if the two of them, because I think women are more heinous in general, severely heinous. Yeah, so I just think we need to just figure it out. That's the problem. That's the solution. That's it. Like, there's nothing else to say, and I have nothing else I want to talk about, because, like I said, it just keeps bringing me back to this. Because that's what it is. Because you just go back through the chain of events, and now because I can visualize all of history, in a chain of events, starting from Adam and Eve all the way up to this day, right? Because I can envision that because I've studied it all. I can literally see that if you go back and 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 back, everything can be retraced back to Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve. The devil didn't wait for Cain. The devil didn't wait for whoever came after Cain and Abel. He didn't wait for everybody else. Adam and Eve. That's what I'm saying. So anyways, that's all I have to say to you guys for this. If life's a game, it's pay to win. I'm just trying to say winning strategies, and I'm just trying to share the truth because, listen, the Bible says you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. The Bible says Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. The only way to the Father is through him. I believe that's John 14:6. Guys, that's what it is. So all this other stuff we're talking about is actually wasting our time. That's why I'm not really talking about stuff these days, because I'm just like, Diddy, Epstein, Keir Starmer, whatever the heck is going on in the world, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, whatever. Who cares? Whatever that it is that people are talking about, whatever the root of all the problems, goes back to Adam and Eve. I truly love you guys. God loves you. And I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.